Hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Parikshit Luthra. Here are the headlines we are tracking this evening. Donald Trump takes oath as the...
From this moment on, America's decline is over.
Trump 2.0 begins. Donald Trump vows to put America first, signs a slew of executive orders on day one, including withdrawing the US from the WHO and the Paris Accord. Also grants a pardon to 1,600 people facing prosecution for rioting on Capitol Hill. US citizenship will no longer be a birthright unless certain conditions are met. President Trump's executive order challenges decades of Supreme Court precedents and the Constitution, says children born in the United States to temporary visa holders or illegal entrants will not be considered Americans. The law comes into effect after 30 days and is likely to be challenged in courts. Indian equities go into a tailspin as uncertainty over President Trump's actions towards Indian trade and industry and a slew of disappointing earnings reports weigh on the sentiment. The market ends at a 6-month low after a highly volatile session. All sectoral indices end in the red. Bank of America CEO says bank deregulation is one of the items on President Trump's to-do list, says a well-capitalized liquid banking industry is the need of the hour. IT CEOs remain optimistic about 2025, but more so about 2026. TCS Kirthivasan tells CNBC-TV18 that double-digit growth is not improbable and can be achieved. Tech Mahindra's Mohit Joshi says that while 2025 will be a strong year, 2026 will see explosive growth. Sachin Jindal of JSW Group makes a pitch for safeguard duties to protect domestic steelmakers, says he expects an announcement from the government soon, adds that JSW Group will launch a new EV in the next 18 months. Novartis CEO tells CNBC-TV18 that they have the right footprint to launch medicines in India, do not need any more tie-ups now. Also says he feels even stronger about staying out of the Ozempic race. Adds that they will focus on continued strong innovation and growth. A big win for Vodafone Idea. Supreme Court dismisses the taxman's plea, challenging a 1,600 crore rupee tax refund to the telecom company. The big story this evening. Donald Trump has been sworn in as the 47th President of the United States, stating that the golden age of America begins now. The event was attended by a whole host of dignitaries and tech CEOs. His aide, Elon Musk, Meta's Mark Zuckerberg, Google's Sundar Pichai, and Amazon's Jeff Bezos were seen in the audience during the ceremony. And hours after taking oath indoors due to frigid conditions in Washington, Trump turned up the heat, signing a slew of executive orders centered on anti-immigration, Mexico, border security, among others. Here's a brief snapshot of the significant orders. The president has pulled the United States out of the Paris Climate Agreement. He has also pulled out from the World Health Organization, citing that Washington was unfairly paying more than China to fund the United Nations health body. He has also declared a national emergency along with troop deployment at the Mexico border. He stated that the US government is going to end asylum and end birthright citizenship. Children born in the United States to temporary visa holders or illegal entrants will not be considered Americans. The law comes into effect after 30 days and is likely to be challenged in courts. Trump has also pardoned the 1,500 rioters responsible for the 6 January riots on the Capitol 4 years ago. All the detainees have been released from a detention center in Washington. Trump has also repealed orders promoting diversity programs and LGBTQ equality. He said that the US government will only recognize 2 genders, male and female. He has also ordered a 75-day pause on enforcing a law that would effectively ban TikTok.
I will declare a national emergency at our southern border. We will reinstate my Remain in Mexico policy. I will end the practice of catch and release. And I will send troops to the southern border to repel the disastrous invasion of our country. My life was saved for a reason. I was saved by God to make America great again.
Let's dive further into Trump's decision to revoke birthright citizenship. His executive order upends plans of green card aspirants in the United States. A large number of those in the green card queue are Indians. Ashmit Kumar joins us now. Ashmit, this was an election pledge. Will it lead to a legal hurdle?
Now, Donald Trump is toying with the language of the 14th Amendment. His executive order argues that the phrase subject to jurisdiction thereof allows him to exclude citizenship by birth. His executive order says, and I quote, the 14th Amendment has never been interpreted to extend citizenship universally to everyone born within the U.S. The privilege of the U.S. citizenship does not automatically extend to persons born in the United States. Now, his executive order has disallowed citizenship in two scenarios. Scenario one, where the father is not a citizen or a permanent resident and the mother is an illegal immigrant. Scenario two, and this is the one which impacts lakhs and lakhs of Indians, where the father and the mother are present legally in the U.S. but are there only on a temporary visa, like for work, like for study or for tourism. Now, this ban on citizenship by birth kicks in from February 20th. So what does this mean? Well, what it effectively means is that children born before February 20th to Indians, even on a temporary visa, are American citizens. This ban is not retroactive and will not impact children already born to Indian parents. But any child born on or after February 20th, where neither of the parents are American citizens or green card holders, that child will not automatically become a U.S. citizen. This has come as a huge shock. It was hoped that action of this kind will be reserved only and only for illegal immigrants. Well, the impact of this move will be faced by lakhs and lakhs of Indians who've traveled to the U.S. for study or for work. In fact, there are lakhs of Indians who are in long queues for green cards and had planned their future around their child assuming American citizenship on birth and becoming their sponsor on turning 21. So, what about the road ahead? Well, there is already talk of challenging the order. Legal pundits are arguing that subject to the jurisdiction thereof was used in the 14th Amendment only to exclude children of foreign diplomats working in the US. But here's the catch. Even the US Supreme Court is populated with Trump-nominated conservative judges, a hangover of Trump's first presidency. Clearly, Trump 2.0 has taken a broadsword approach to immigration, and just from day one, it could unduly impact Indians living in the US.
Now on to the market action. Indian equities went into a tailspin as uncertainty over President Trump's actions towards Indian trade and industry and a slew of disappointing earnings reports weighed on the sentiment. The market ended at a 6-month low after a highly volatile session. All sectoral indices ended in the red. Prashant Nair is here with more on the day's market action.
Well, it was a slam dunk by the end of it, and it didn't appear that way when we started this morning because, while Trump was clear on what he promised in his campaign, border, immigration, even things like oil prices, the one thing which he was not very clear about was tariffs. And generally the kind of reading was that maybe it's not going to be everything on day one and it's going to be more gradual, and maybe it still is. But that didn't really save the market here, which actually sold off quite hard. Very, very volatile through the course of the day. But by the end of it, by close, we essentially were testing about 23,000, briefly broke it, but actually managed to close above it. But almost triple-digit losses coming through on the index. Nifty up on your screen. The Nifty Bank will come up on your screen again. Sharply lower. Mid-cap and small-cap indices, market breadth was one way down. Far more number of stocks lower than higher. I'll get to that in just a bit. On the Nifty, large caps, Trent was a big loser. Adani Ports, NTPC, ICICI Bank, SBI and Reliance Industries were stocks which sold off. On the upside, your names coming through in Apollo Hospitals, BPCL and Tata Consumer, which actually stood out and sort of looked up. In the broader market, Zomato was the big casualty. Swiggy, of course, took a dive as well. The EMS companies, of course, Dixon is the leader. Here, Dixon sold off 12-13%. Amber came off, Avalon came off, Sirma came off, and that entire pack looked pretty poor. MCX was another casualty after numbers. Kalyan Jewellers had an up day yesterday, but reversed it completely today. Real estate, Oberoi Realty, Lodha, Prestige, Anantraj, these were all sharply down in trade. Geo Financial Services, there were names like Newgen, which was down some 15% after the results. Motilal Oswal Financial Services, Policy Bazaar is now, under 1,600 rupees. Greaves Cotton, Mankind, K Fintech. So lots of casualties, lots of pressure in the broader market once again. I mean, markets, of course, globally are still on headline watch because it's still not very clear what the scale, scope, and the execution on tariffs is going to be as far as the new US President Trump is concerned. Back to you.
Generative AI continues to be a buzzword at the World Economic Forum at Davos. India's top tech CEOs continue to bet on the technology and have committed to double down on the same as well. Speaking to Shireen Bhan on the sidelines of the summit, TCS Managing Director and CEO K. Kirtivasan said that the number of people will not come down due to AI. Cognizant CEO Ravi Kumar said AI will be a big winner in the tech services market. While Tech Mahindra CEO Mohit Joshi has said that the industry needs to create vertical and horizontal use cases for artificial intelligence.
The number of people that we need will not come down. But what these people will do will change. That's where the adaptive enterprise come into place. People have to learn new skills, develop new capabilities in terms of how do you work with these generative AI models and deliver the end-to-end solution to our customers.
So it'll be more from the same. That is the expectation?
It'll definitely more from the same. Maybe even our going in belief is you'll end up having more people than what we have. More people actually.
Okay.
Because the quantum of work that will be delivered will be much more than what is being
So
delivered.
more people over what time? What does that mean in terms of hiring?
I don't want to put a timeline to it because it's over a period of time, but I don't think we are fearing the reduction in amount of people required to do that. Like we are gearing up to have more people do the work.
So, if I were to ask you about the possibility and the doability of achieving double-digit growth rates as far as industry is concerned, and I know you've been asked this previously as well.
We continue to stay it's definitely an aspiration for us. We don't believe that it's an improbable number. We believe it's definitely possible.
By when?
I don't want to put a timeline. But we constantly aspire for this. So if you ask me, do I want
Is it within reach?
It is. Like, see, look at the other way. Like when we took over, I took over or for many years we've been talking about a margin side. We keep saying 26 to 28. In Q4 of last year, we did achieve 26. Again, we slipped. But it is something that's possible within our grasp. Similarly, a double-digit growth, I don't think is improbable.
24 was better than 23,
Yes.
25 likely to be better than 24 for you?
For sure. And all culminating in FY27, which is where we've given the, our grand plan for. So no, I do feel that, 23 was very difficult, right? If you look at it from a TechM perspective, we shrank by about, 5% or so for the financial year ending on the 31st of March 24. For the current year, we've shown growth quarter over quarter in the past couple of quarters, and I feel confident that calendar year 25 should be a strong year.
A strong year.
Again, not a breakout year, but a strong year. We are seeing a lot of deal momentum from a telco perspective. Obviously, the situation for telcos remains a little bit tight, right? In the sense of reduction in capex and huge pressures. But this is where I think a player like us can make a difference. So we do feel that we will see a lot of consolidation and cost plays to create the vertical and the horizontal use cases for customers. So the horizontal use cases, for instance, are in marketing, in cybersecurity, in HR, in contact center transformation. And the vertical use cases are by industry, right? Fraud and anti-money laundering for banking, energy consumption and reducing churn for telecoms, right? So we've got these horizontal and vertical use cases. Then we have the ecosystem partnerships with the hyperscalers, with the AI model builders. And we have our own R&D, right? I think uniquely among the SIs, we have built a large language model for Hindi, from scratch, right?
But the period of change around us is significant. Yeah. I mean, the AI wave is just, the opportunity is just out of the world for enterprises. And the kind of work which needs to be done to take the raw power of AI and make it enterprise grade there's so much heavy lift needed that I'm excited about the future of tech services. I'm excited about India. I mean, India has a very significant role to play. So I'm excited about the fact that Cognizant has this unique confluence of having a big presence in India and leverage upon it. And equally, the future of tech services. There are There are CEOs who will tell you that AI will actually make tech services a loser, and some will tell you that it will be a winner. I'm a big believer that it is going to be a winner. I mean, and that's why I'm excited about the future of IT services, the work we do. I mean, writing software and software development cycles, that's going to be run by machines. And because it's going to be run by machines, people think, what are people going to do if software is going to be written by machines? Uniquely, writing code is one of the biggest use cases for AI. So 30% of my code is written by machines. So what are people going to do? So on that vector, I believe the elasticity for spend for technology is so high that every time something like this has happened, we have actually seen more technology spent, the backlog getting cleared, and more importantly, we have tech debt on balance sheets which will actually come out.
And time for a short break, but coming up, our Davos coverage continues. Sajid Jindal of JSW Group makes a pitch for safeguard duties to protect domestic steel makers. That and more when we return.
To connecting you with the world's visionary thinkers and doers. From decoding blueprints for growth to driving collaboration to make a better future. We've been bringing you a wealth of information through 20 seasons. Tune in to Davos Diaries at Davos 2025, live and exclusive on India's most trusted business news platform, CNBC-TV18. In the political arena to all the excitement from the world of
Top global corporate captains also laid out their India growth pipeline on CNBC-TV18. Vaz Narasimhan, the CEO of Novartis, says they have the right footprint to launch medicines in India. They also said that they are looking at expanding R&D in the country, and negotiations for selling the company's listed business in India are still ongoing. Bimal Kapoor, the global CEO of Honeywell, called India one of their fastest growing markets. Bank of America CEO Brian Moynihan, too, remains optimistic about the India growth story.
If you think about India, we have them growing strong next year, consistent with what they grew this year. It's now moved to the fifth largest economy, keeps moving north. All the programs of Prime Minister Modi and the governments over the years have been working. It's becoming hugely digital, 800 million phones and all the stuff we talk about, and you see the digital impacts with our clients and our customers.
What do you expect in terms of fund flows into markets like India on the back of what we're seeing happen in the US with the dollar strength?
Well, I think the fund flows in India ought to be among the strongest around the world because it's sheer opportunity. And so, manufacturing as a major extra source, the services economy, which is strong, and by the way, it's building a huge internal economy.
The IPO market in specific had a stellar run in India. What's the expectation as far as public market performance is concerned in 2025?
IPO market, there are 100,000 startups, I think, in India. There's 1,000 of them that are getting towards, big enough and interesting enough for the public markets. 100 of them, I think, are unicorns or something like that. Those statistics. Therefore, the markets will receive them. But I think the key is that with all the markets now, if you're as we see across the world, if it's biotech or something that's really different, AI, that's different. But if you're a core business, you got to have a path to profitability because the markets won't support without seeing that profitability. So you either got to have pretty good cash flow and profit before you go public, or got to have a very, very understandable task, because you're competing against companies which make a lot of money and are making money. And at the end of the day, your valuation is ultimately going to reflect your ability to earn money and grow it in the future.
I think for now we feel like we have the right footprint to launch the medicines that we want to come to market with. We've really now focused the launches to medicines we think we can launch in the private sector successfully. So I don't think there's a need for more tie-ups at the moment. I mean, what's interesting now is, of course, with some of the dynamics in the US and China, I think there is now more opportunity for specialist firms in India to take up some of that slack, whether that's contract research organization, contract manufacturing organizations, supporting our research labs. So that's where we actually see an expansion. One of the important expansions we have now is in research. Novartis is now actually bringing fundamental, I made that announcement last year, and now it's really moving forward, bringing research into the country. And I think that will hopefully build a stronger ecosystem for drug discovery in the future.
That brings me to the question when we last discussed it, and you said, I don't want to suffer from any FOMO to get into the Ozempic race, and you're sticking with that.
And I feel even stronger about that now.
Really?
As you've seen some of the recent data readouts where it's been hard to beat the first generation medicines, you may have seen that in the IRA drug price setting scheme, one of the competitor drugs is already now listed. You have generic companies coming in. We're going to look at obesity more from an innovation standpoint. Can we come up with something novel, something different, something easier to use? But I think joining this first wave of innovation is not right for our company. It's not a good use of capital.
US in particular, I would say the spend is much heavier on anything to do with AI and therefore data center and therefore utilities. I think that continues. I mean, we don't see any change in that. But if you pivot towards India and the manufacturing spend there just on electronics, on semiconductor manufacturing, we hear a lot more of that versus, traditional way. So I think the themes change where you go, but overall basis, I think I remain optimistic that Word is going to spend more money in 25 versus 24.
What's the view, the Honeywell view on India, and how do you see the next few years playing out for you? You've got a large presence there, large operations there.
We continue to do well. I would say, always look at India into three buckets. The domestic business, our global capability center, and then sourcing from India. There are three different things. We've been there for 40 years, so our maturity in each one of them is different. Our domestic business is doing extremely well. Can't be more pleased in terms of opportunities in India and how we are working in all the three segments we serve, aerospace, energy and infrastructure, they're all relevant for India, so we do there naturally well. Our global operations are very mature. Overall, our headcount in India is more than 14,000 people, mostly engineers, so that gives you the scale we have. The new news I have is more around sourcing from India. Okay. We did not do that a lot of it because India had competition. But I think last 2 years, story of India on Made in India is actually holding. Okay. And companies like us believe now it's a place to seriously look at it from a sourcing perspective. Okay. Now, when I say sourcing, it's really looking at more complicated mechanical components which we use into our products. So aerospace, for example, is our largest segment. And we barely source anything from India, but we can do hundreds of millions of dollars. It means we have to do a supply-based development locally, and that's what we are doing right now. We're looking at a lot of companies and essentially growing an automotive supplier to an aerospace supplier. That's how these industry work. So I see that's the next way for companies like us. We do a lot of domestic business, we leverage a lot of global capability center, and now really leverage it for global sourcing.
Sajjan Jindal of JSW Group has made a pitch for safeguard duties, protect domestic steelmakers. In a conversation with Shireen Bhan at Davos, he said he expects some announcements from the government in the next 15 days. He added that a new electric vehicle from the JSW stable under the JSW brand would be launched in 18 months.
We are already working on that project, and hopefully over the next 18 months we will see a new product coming from the JSW saddle. Under the brand name of JSW. Okay, so JSW will continue to be the brand that you will use as far as the electric vehicles are concerned as well? Absolutely, yes. Okay, and in 18 months we'll have the cars on the road? Hopefully, yeah, that's what we are gunning for. I believe that the work has started on the
possibility of putting in safeguard duties? Have you heard back from the government?
We haven't yet, but there's a lot of work going on because it's not a simple process. They have to follow the due process, and that's going on. And we expect that over the next 10 to 15 days, we should hear something back.
Paytm CEO Vijay Shekhar Sharma has expressed his optimism over achieving EBITDA profitability in the next quarter. On the sidelines of the World Economic Forum Summit, Sharma said that the company's drop in market share is easily recoverable.
Well, the road ahead looks like that we have committed that next quarter we will be profitable, EBITDA before ESOP, meaning the before the ESOP cost, which is also reducing incidentally, and we should be doing that. So we are working on the business which is now PAT profitable onwards. So after a couple of quarters, we should talk about PAT profitability, and I would go for that.
After a couple of quarters, so what does a couple of quarters mean?
A couple of quarters are a couple of quarters.
So you won't specify, is that 3, 4?
I learned that being a public company, one thing that you should know is that you should not have one information arbitration with other information. So what we've been talking, I'll be able to detail it further, just like we've said it.
Okay.
And we've said it that from this point onward, we in earning call also talked about that because our large cash pool gives us interest income, our two costs, which are capex sort of and lots of, let's say, other costs will get sorted out. So we should head towards a PAT profitability soon.
In few quarters is what you have to say.
I have to say that.
So let's talk about what's happening on the UPI side of the market, Vijay. And despite the fact that you've got the NPCI approval, we've actually seen market share come off quite sharply. A 50% drop as far as your market share is concerned, now down to 5.5%. Why is that?
It's very bad, and I can only say that. I mean, the situations and the reasons are public. I'd not like to repeat much of that, but I'd say that...
is it on account of the trust issues related to what happened with the bank?
No, we were not allowed to onboard at all for last... So, our business was paused because of regulatory understanding and something that happened thereof. And post that it has come, I'm very happy that without any marketing spend, we are adding millions of customers. So, I have a super brighter side ahead, just like this bright sun in Davos right now. We all are surprised, And I can say that even though we've fall market share exists, but it is easily recoverable with the product.
How do you ensure that it becomes easily recoverable? What are you going to do?
I think the customers are coming in. It's a product gap, deeper integration to UPI ecosystem, and more merchant acquisition, which creates a flywheel, will bring our consumer back. We do have a marketing budget, but right now we are focused on product-led growth.
With that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Business Hour. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.